Mascot horror over the years is something that evolved exponentially after Five Nights at Freddy's first released, and I, like all of you guys watching, will always remember the times before FNAF made mascot horror blow up. And if you don't remember those times, then you actually probably had a life outside of your room and gaming setup. Jokes aside though, there wasn't really anything that was super popular before Five Nights at Freddy's that was specifically mascot horror. The only things that kind of used it were Resident Evil and Silent Hill. And these games aren't considered mascot horror games, but they do dabble in mascot horror a little bit because the games, they did so well, but each one of them also used cool characters that weren't mascots per se, but they were super unique and out of place enough to not really be possible in the real world, which made for some really cool stories and experiences. This is all you really had at the time, and all the YouTubers that were doing Let's Plays on all these games, they did phenomenal, and they grew super crazily because of them. Also keep in mind, there are more games that were present at this time, and I'm not overlooking them by not mentioning them, but it's just that Resident Evil and Silent Hill were the two that got the biggest audiences and were the most popular. But once Five Nights at Freddy's released, it created indie mascot horror. And not just because big YouTubers covered the games, but since the Five Nights at Freddy's games were actually fantastic, they had great lore, visuals, horror, it really allowed for the game to not only create indie mascot horror, but it also became the foundation for any other mascot horror game or game mildly related to be based on, compared to. And since FNAF was such a great series, people have made multiple fan games that have evolved due to FNAF. And then that brings us to the topic of today's video, Indigo Park, a mascot horror game you may have guessed, but one that I believe has a very unique premise and story, that it shows the potential to change mascot horror. So let's jump straight into it. So what is Indigo Park? Something that just seems like another random mascot indie horror game. Indigo Park is a game created by a guy, Unique Geese, or Mason, who before making the game, he was actually responsible for remaking the first chapter of Garden of Banban. After seeing how bad that first chapter was, he remade it under the name Reincarnated, which inspired him after making that to learn game development and develop his own game, Indigo Park. And that is just, it really tells me that this dude was just a fan of, horror games in general, and he wanted to take that somewhere, which is a really cool story in its own sense, and it's not just some random dude making a horror game and then getting popular. And, since Unique Geese or Mason isn't an entire studio, you can really feel his touch on each section of the first chapter of Indigo Park. Oh yeah, I should probably tell you about this game if you've never heard of it before. Major spoilers ahead. The game opens with a commercial of Indigo Park's grand opening stated by a man named Isaac Indigo. The camera then pans out of the monitor we're looking at, where we see a gaming setup followed by a conversation between two characters, the main character, Ed, and somebody under the name of Laura. After this introduction, we arrive at the actual park, but we notice a complete lack of life and how the entrance has been littered with trash and run down. After exploring a little bit, we find the Wrangler's entrance off to the side, where we meet Rambly, a digital raccoon AI who welcomes us and proceeds to tell us to get registered. After registering, we head back to the main gate, where Rambly tells us that the power is not on and we need to go turn on a generator in the Wrangler's entrance to make the gate open. After going back there and finding a cog to make the generator work, we enter Indigo Park. Rambly tells us that we need to get a critter cuff so we can access different parts of the park. After receiving the cuff, we make our way toward our first experience, Rambly's Railway. We jump on the train and begin going through different sections of the ride, experiencing different environments and meeting different characters. Rambly interacts with each character, having casual conversation like an old friend, which shows that Rambly's friends with everyone. Well, everyone except Lloyd the Lion. Then the train then stops at a destroyed section of the ride and Rambly starts glitching out for some reason. After looking around, we see a door into the back room, and we have to actually head back there to fix Rambley's AI. But before going there, we notice something on the ground, a cutout of a skunk-like character. We then head back into the back room, and we have to restart the train, which will fix Rambley. We fix it, and then we return to the train, where it takes off no problem. But Rambley has no mention of the section that we were just in involving that skunk-like character we saw. We then enter Lloyd's main section, where we can tell Rambley is not fond of Lloyd in the slightest, and it seems like they have something more deep going on between them. We hop off the train at the gift shop for the ride, and then we can explore the main area of the park, where we see Lloyd's main stage, a big Ferris wheel, a bunch of little shops, and we also see a Big Ben looking clock. We then head over to Jetstream Junction that Rambley was mentioning us to head to before. We then have to find a key that is located in Lloyd's main stage. We actually head over there to the main stage, where we enter seeing Lloyd, the actual line, laying on the stage before heading back behind the curtains. We then follow him for some reason. Before we travel back though, Rambley informs us that he won't be able to contact us back there. We enter anyway. After entering backstage, we search around a little bit. We then find the back room and get the key to Jetstream Junction and head there. But before we do, our critter cuff then begins to ring, which scares Lloyd away, and we just open the door and walk out. We head out of Lloyd's stage, and then we enter Jetstream Junction and go toward the ride Rooftop Racers that Rambley mentioned before, like as our main objective, but we see that the ride is completely destroyed. Rambley scrambles to get the ride repaired before realizing that that won't happen. We then head into the landing pad, an indoor playground area where we have to find the combination of the shapes and colors by going into the landing pad and finding the code by looking at the shapes on the walls and putting them in the correct order. After doing so, we head through the next section where we walk further into the pad, where we come to a long corridor hallway looking area. After seeing the door at the end, we begin heading toward it, where we see Molly McCall prying the door open, and she begins chasing us down. We then have to navigate the play area carefully, avoiding Molly as she's in hot pursuit. We then continue running, making it out of the play area to a long hallway heading toward a staff-only room, where Rambley instantly realizes we need entry. We narrowly make it into the room. Rambley then explains everything, how he's been aware that the park has been closed for so long, and since he's been confined to the entrance of the park, he proceeds to tell you how he didn't know how bad the park has fallen into ruin. And then he says that he wants to rebuild the park, but he needs human access to do so. After mentioning this, we agree to help him. Well, we don't say anything, but that's what happens. And then we continue until we reach the next section, Oceanic Odyssey, where the chapter ends, and we get this really cool ending song. Now, I know that was a lot to take in. That entire chapter, there's a lot going on in there, and there's more details involved in it that I didn't mention for the sake of the length. But this next part is going to be a little more off script due to it being more my personal thoughts and opinions on this game, and I just thought I should let you know that before continuing in case you wonder like why the way I'm talking switches. But the next thing is the importance of this game and why I think it's going to evolve indie mascot horror. And let me go ahead and dive straight into that. Now this game, obviously, as a lot of you can see, is very similar to Poppy Playtime, you know, any other like horror mascot indie game. And of course that's going to happen whenever a game like this comes out. It instantly gets compared to really anything else that was there before it. But this game, in my opinion, is just such a breath of fresh air, and it seems like it's pushing mascot horror as a whole in the right direction. Now, I do think that this game, you know, there could be more details added to it, but something I would really like to mention about it is that it just doesn't seem too, like, I don't know, cliche. Obviously, you know, the mascots becoming alive, that's something that anyone could think of. It's something not too original, but it's something that you could do very unique things with like the lore and the story, which again, I don't know the lore and the story to an extreme detail yet, but it looks like it could go really well. Some cool details that I want to mention are a couple things. First off, one of the things that you may have not seen is at the beginning, whenever you jump on the train, you actually, in the first section, which is Molly McCall's section, you can actually see her looking at you off to the side. This is something that happens kind of throughout the entire ride, as well as after the train as well. But it's something that I don't think you're supposed to really realize on your first playthrough, which I think is really cool, because if you do see it, it's kind of shocking, and I think that's like a really clever idea. And again, a lot of people don't even know it's there, but something that I saw was cool. Another thing as well is the voice acting for Rambly is really good. Even the other characters, which we don't hear their voice that much, except for the railway ride, but Rambly's voice actor is incredible, which is just super good. It's just, I don't know, I feel like as the game goes on, we're going to get more voices and stuff, and it's just going to be even better, and that's what I'm really excited for. Something too is that this may be something that is like more of a mixed opinion for me, but I personally like how we don't get too much with this first chapter. A common thing that I see a lot of games fall into is they try to put too much into their first chapter, which makes the other chapters just nowhere near as good because the first one was so good, and they're going to have to live up to the expectation. And I think in this one, we don't get too much to where we're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, the second one is going to be so good. Like, it's just going to make it a whole other thing. Now, say for example, there was more, like it was a longer chapter, there was more to do, more to think about. I do think that the creator, Unique Geese, could easily make something very good too, but I think that by not overwhelming us with this first chapter, it's a really smart idea and setting it up for the next chapter. Now, I should probably go into something that I'm going to mention as well, and this is the stuff I want to see for the future of this game, but as well as the stuff that I don't want to see. Now, there is not a lot of problems I see with this game narratively or gameplay-wise. Of course, when I played it, I got a couple glitches and stuff, and that just happens when you play a game like this. But the things that I don't want to see are as follows. Now, this first game, of course, again, it's going to be compared to like any other game, but a cool detail I'll mention that I didn't speak of before is that this game was actually inspired by Disney. With the opening scene as well as just the park itself, it's very Disney inspired, which I think is really cool. I haven't really seen a game like this. Most of the time, like Poppy Playtime, you're in a warehouse. Five Nights at Freddy's, a pizzeria. This, it's like a Disney kind of park, which I think is really cool. But the thing is that I really don't want this game to become a clone of like, FNAF, Security Breach, Poppy Playtime chapters. I really hope it goes in a unique direction. I think everyone does, but again, a lot of games fall into this problem. I mean, take Garden of Banban or really any game of that nature. It can happen so often, but I personally don't think that's going to happen, and I really hope it doesn't happen with the second chapter and just going on after that. But I honestly think that this game has a lot to it, and I think there could be a lot of cool things done with it. Has a lot of stuff to go with like the lore, and it looks really good. It looks really amazing. There's so much they can do here, and I just think that once this game fully comes out with everything that it has to offer, playing through the entire game start to finish. Now, let me talk about the small problems that I did come in with the game, or the things that I could be ironed out, and let me go ahead and mention a couple of them. Number one, obviously the lag. Some of the things are like the assets and stuff are funky, and I know that takes a little bit to get ironed out. But another thing I would like to see fixed is just like, I feel like some of the areas are a little too dark, and I know they made a remaster for this game, but I feel like they have a bit more. Whenever they fully get everything out, or whenever they want to, they should try making the park look a little bit more vibrant. And I don't mean like as if it's a brand new park, but just make it a little better to look at, because even though it's like a abandoned park, they can still do a lot to make the visuals a little bit better, which they do in the remaster, but there are some places that are just a little difficult to look at. And also the designs of the characters, like the mascots, they look really good as of right now, but Lloyd the Lion's, like, the way he looks is a little goofy to me, and I feel like they should do something about updating it, or just making sure going forward that it looks good, or if they do redesign it, they can do it in a cool way. But outside of that, I really don't have too much else to say at problems wise. Again, there wasn't too much in this chapter or stuff that's like so overwhelmingly bad. That's about it. But that about wraps up today's video. I know it's maybe not as long as you expected, but I don't have too much to say about this. I mean, it's one chapter, but I think that there is a lot here that could go really well, and I think Unique Geese has a really cool game, and I'm so excited to see what he does with this. I feel like it's going to be really good, and if you guys want to see any other horror game or any other thing related to Indigo Park or something, let me know in the comment section. Drop anything in the comment section that you want to see me talk about, a video you want me to make, because I do read comments, believe it or not. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay awesome, God bless, and peace.